Hi, I'm Crystal LaFay, and I just wanted to take a moment and talk about brain fatigue. So it started for me in 2018. I had a stroke, a brain bleed, and a brain tumor discovery. And then I set out to heal the brain tumor, and I did, holistically. And then shortly after I was given the go-ahead by my doctor, go live your life, I was in an accident where I hit my head on the steering wheel going 55. Someone pulled out in front of me. So then I was given the diagnosis of a traumatic brain injury from that, frontal lobe damage. And I have spent, since 2018, recovering. And then 2019, when the accident happened, recovering some more. And there is one thing that seems to linger with me, and that is brain fatigue. And I'm very emotional this week because I am experiencing a lot of brain fatigue this week. And I know that in my recovery, I had researched and sought out help and just asked tons of questions and was trying to find help on YouTube and things like that, like explanations and understanding of what is happening with my brain. Because when I get brain fatigue, everything else shuts down. My whole body just says, okay, you're done. We can't do anything. If it's really severe brain fatigue, that's what happens. It's like an off switch, shut down. And by looking at me, you would think that I'm normal, quote unquote normal, that I've healed pretty good and I'm doing really good. And in general, that's true, absolutely. But in reality, sometimes I still can't get out of bed, and sometimes I still have the brain fatigue that it just lingers. And it's usually when I get high stressed, because I have literally picked it apart so many times. Like, how does this work? Why do I get the brain fatigue? What activity makes me have brain fatigue? What causes it? And then what can I do to stop it? Can I get ahead of it? Can I stop it before it begins? I have been there, up and down, round and round with this whole brain fatigue. And recently, after my millionth time of having brain fatigue, there's some things that I've discovered that does help and things that do trigger it. Even though sometimes it still can happen, whenever. But for my case, my personal case, I have scar tissue in my brain from the brain bleed and the brain tumor, and it's located next to my pineal gland, and I am a psychic medium, so doing that type of work is taxing on my human brain with the scar tissue there. So there's like a round of scar tissue in the middle of my brain. So according to my neurosurgeon, and just so you know, I never had brain surgery. I opted to not have brain surgery to see if I could heal it holistically, and I did. And I can do other videos on that if anybody's interested in how I did that healing. But I asked him one time, tell me about the brain fatigue. Is this a normal thing that you see in your practice? What insight can you give me as a doctor, professional? And he says, yeah, it's a normal thing. You see that brain fatigue is just a normal thing when it comes to brain injuries. Any type of brain injury. And especially with my brain, with the way it is with the scar tissue, my neurons and all those things inside my brain have to work harder. So any type of activity, I have to work harder. And right now I'm starting to drive again, which it's been since 2019, and it's 2022 right now. And so I am slowly starting to drive again. And the fear has definitely gotten better with that. because of the accident. So I've definitely come a long way when it comes to the fear aspect, but my brain still gets so fatigued from driving, and honestly it's kind of annoying because I want to drive, but my brain gets exhausted very quickly. So I have to listen and honor my brain. And before I continue, I'm not a doctor. I am not giving doctors advice. Always go to your doctor for anything that you try new, anything you try at all. Talk to your doctor about your own healing, your own brain stuff. This is just stuff that's helped me, that I would like to share with you. So what's helped me recently, because this last week has been exhausting, and I can tell you my triggers. So the trigger from me for this last couple weeks of brain fatigue, and just know, brain fatigue to me is different than regular fatigue. So when I say brain fatigue, I mean literally I can't do much at all. Like any type of activity takes a lot. Like this right now is taking some energy from me that I will have to rest pretty much for the rest of the day after this. But I think this is important, and especially at this point where I'm at with the brain fatigue, I'm better than I was a few days ago. I'm still not 100%, so I'm kind of in the middle space, and I think it's important to talk about it. I'm sorry, there's bees all around me. We have bumblebees everywhere, which is fantastic, but still. So let me take a breath. I tend to talk really fast normally, and my brain takes time to catch up, so I'm just taking a breath. Okay, so what happened this last couple weeks is that there was some family drama, some stress that happened, and it caused a lot of emotional upset for me, and a lot of just unneeded stress. And normally I do pretty good as long as I stay in my little bubble of comfort. We live out in the boonies, out in the country, so it's really nice out here, and there's, my closest in-law is my closest neighbor is my in-laws, and there's my husband and my kids who are older, so I'm pretty good at staying in my bubble, and I usually have pretty good, decent energy when I do that. But things happen, life happens, and this last couple weeks life happened. And this is stuff that didn't even necessarily involve our family, but it happened, and it's things that we had to deal with. And so that started my brain triggering for the brain fatigue. It started that because a lot of emotional stress will trigger that for me. And then just doing a lot of activity on a daily basis, being busy. I don't have young kids, but I do have older kids, and I do have lots of animals. I've got dogs and cats and, responsibilities and things, and I do a lot of online stuff. So I was online a lot this last week, working on my YouTube channel and just working on stuff. I actually created, about a year ago or so, I created my own oracle deck. And so now I'm in the process of making a new oracle deck, so that takes energy from me. So there's just been a lot. And when that happens to me, I tend to be very emotional, and I tend to cry a lot. And that's okay. It's okay. Life happens. It just does. And you have to deal with it the best way you can. And I've always chosen to look at things in the positive. And this last couple weeks, it's been a very challenging time to look at the positive. But in the last couple days, I've pulled myself back, and I've decided to continue to choose to look at the positive in things. Because looking at the negative is another trigger for me, and it pulls a lot of energy from me. So these are the steps that I've taken in the last few days, especially, to help me. I've started to talk slower. That helps. It helps slow my brain down. In fact, today I warned my husband yesterday and my children. I said, today's going to be a silent day for me. Pretty much, I'm just going to do a lot of inner work stuff and just spend a lot of time with me, by myself. I started to move slower. So I'm doing slower yoga, smaller meditations, which means I'm a meditation instructor, and I love meditation, and it is my medicine. I absolutely love meditation, and I do all kinds of different types of meditation. But when I have brain fatigue, I literally can only do about 10 minutes of meditation. And I used to beat myself up about that, because you would think meditation should be lower on the scale brain activity, but it's still using energy, especially if you're doing guided meditation. You know, I tend to do more silent meditations during this time. So I do smaller meditations. I do about 10 minutes, give or take, of meditations throughout the day. So I can break them up. And I also take a lot of breaks. Right now, you can't see it, but there's a fire pit going, and I'm outside next to my sacred space trailer, which is my saving grace, where I just go there and be by myself. And having a bonfire is just soothing to me, so I do things that soothe me. And I really take the time and I ask my body and my brain, what does it need from me? What can I do for it? What will help? And sometimes it's just being still and breathing. I do a lot of breathing. That helps. Breathing does help. You would think, well, we breathe all the time, right? Well, most of us don't breathe correctly. And I actually had to take some classes after my injuries of how to breathe correctly. And that's in your belly breath. I do light walking. I like to walk. It's one of my favorite activities. From the accident, I shattered my knee and my heel, so I couldn't walk for a long time. I had to learn how to walk again. And I'm better, my knee's better, my foot's better. I mean, to a certain extent. It has some limitations that I navigate around. So I like to still walk. I just don't walk as far, don't walk as long, and I take shorter walks. I really like to walk after I eat something that helps with digestion, and it just helps just release things. Walking, I love walking. So I'll walk a little bit, because even with brain fatigue, walking out in Mother Earth, looking just at the trees and not listening to anything but the nature, it does seem to help. I'm trying to think of other things that I do. I eat. I eat good foods. I do tend to up my carbohydrates when I have brain fatigue, because carbohydrates are energy for your brain. So good carbs, good carbohydrates, the healthy carbs. So I up those, even though I tend to want to gravitate towards the unhealthy ones. Believe me, I can live off of cookies all day long, but my brain doesn't like them as much. So I tend to do that. And I really think about what I'm grateful for throughout the day, especially when I have a lot of brain fatigue and there's not much I can do. I don't like to stay in bed. I spent 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 a lot in bed. I spent a majority of my time in the last few years in bed, just healing, and that's something I needed to do. So when you're fresh out of an accident or fresh, with a brain injury, it's important to rest. It's important to sleep as much as you can, because when we sleep, we do heal. But at this point, I don't like to stay a lot in bed. And plus, I need my nighttime sleep. Sleep is essential. That's another thing. Sleep and rest is very, very essential for healing, especially with brain fatigue. But with an added note that you cannot sleep away brain fatigue. It's the weirdest thing. I'm telling you, I'm still trying to figure it all out. And if you have some answers, I would be grateful for them, because I'm still trying to figure out, why can't I sleep off the brain fatigue, right? You would think that you could. Normal fatigue, you could probably sleep it off and, feel better, but brain fatigue just seems to linger. It's like takes time. It's not even so much with sleep, it just takes time to slowly get better. And I can feel it as it lifts, the brain fatigue. But I do rest a lot more when I'm brain fatigued, and I do get, I would say, at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Normally, I don't take naps during the day, because then I can't sleep at night, and my nighttime sleeping is the most important to me. So, and with everybody's body's different, you have to ask your brain what it needs and what's appropriate. I do take rest periods, though. Minute rest periods throughout the day, here and there, where I'm just sitting, pretty much doing nothing. I like to do yoga nidra during those, a shorter yoga nidra, probably about a 10-minute yoga nidra. And that's just where you're going within and breathing. And then the next 10 minutes just doing nothing. And I have been a very go person. Anybody that knows me personally knows that I don't like to stop. I was raised by a mother who's like that, and she's still like that, and I love her. But I have found for my brain, it's important for me to slow down. And I have found in general for everybody, it's important to slow down. Just take breaks, slow down, and do nothing. And you'll be surprised of how much it will help. So, I guess the takeaway from this video is, you just have to really listen to your brain and what it needs. And know that you have to look at what you use a lot of energy in with your brain. So, how do you prevent brain fatigue? I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm working on it. I'm still healing my brain. I'm still doing all my holistic stuff. I still have faith that maybe 2 years from now, or a month from now, or a week from now, it's going to just keep getting better and better. And it has. I'm better today than I was yesterday. I do know that worry and stress causes a lot of energy for your brain. And through this all, especially the last couple of weeks, I have tried to fight against the brain fatigue. Trust me, I have. Because I got stuff to do, don't we? All have stuff to do. But I found that I actually feel better. I still have some brain fatigue, but I feel better overall when I just surrendered to it and just said, okay, you know what? You need a rest. Your brain needs you to stop and just be. So when I surrendered and just went, okay, and stopped fighting against it and stopped the struggle, that's when I started feeling better. And every time it happens, I repeat this cycle. I've been repeating it since 2018. But I'm going to get it. I'm going to figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to rest. I'm going to take care of myself. And you should too. And don't beat yourself up. Life happens. We have things that we have to go through, and sometimes our brain just has enough. So give it a break. And I can tell you, from focusing on the negative to focusing on the positive, as much as possible, it has changed my brain fatigue. Which means I still have it, but it doesn't affect me as much as it did emotionally, and that's a big deal. Because our emotions causes our brain to work a lot. So if you can focus on the positive, at least for today, it can help. And that's not to deny the stuff that's going on in your life, and that's not to have any toxic positivity or anything like that. I'm not saying that you focus on the positive, everything's going to be great. It's not the way it works. I wish it was, but it's not. Stuff still happens around you, and there's still negative and still negative people and stuff that you have to deal with. But if you can switch it to just focusing on the positive as much as possible and looking at things in a different light, more positive light, it can help. It can help your brain